usually has to happen for you to get rid of a joke? Or why do you get rid of jokes? Why do you stop doing stuff?
Well, a big reason, since I'm still pretty new, a big reason is like sort of feel like I grow out of them, or I'll think about a joke and realize that it's sort of incomplete. Like the jokes that I did when I first started, which was only 9 or 10 months ago. If I were to tell them now, I would feel bad because they sort of lacked a punchline, so to speak, and that was a big sort of realization for me where like I was able to sort of write jokes with punchlines, so I didn't need those jokes that were just ideas and lacked any substance like that.
Sometimes like I'll get rid of a joke because it really kind of has no truth to me. You know what I mean? Like this is like it's funny, but it's not funny, or it might have gotten laughs, but it's like it means nothing to me, right? Like I'm saying something that really isn't important to me.
Yeah.
So I figure like that's sometimes why I feel like I get rid of a joke because it's like too much of a lie, which is kind of a paradox because we're professional liars almost.
Do you ever feel like you stop doing something because it maybe doesn't like match up with what your voice is on stage?
Yeah. If it's too like vulgar, I kind of do that. Not that I'm clean by any stretch of the imagination, but if it's sort of graphically sexual or just dirty, I'll probably won't do it that long because it's not, I don't know, it's not necessarily what I do. I'm more of like a nerdy, self-deprecating pop culture. Maybe not pop culture, but more self-deprecating.
I feel like I'm in such like a baby level of trying to figure out, like a novice level of trying to figure out what my voice is. But I think mostly now, especially because my first year I did a lot of like offensive jokes and a lot of racial jokes and a lot of shock comedy. And I'm still probably guilty of still doing that a little bit. But then I'm definitely trying to take out those jokes from my act where it's just like completely no reason to shock the audience and try to keep it not clean but like keep it smart. There's no reason to try to make the audience feel a certain level of shock when they're just there to laugh.
I mean, there are a couple of jokes that I do now that I did in my first few weeks that were not done, and now I feel like I've fleshed out more. Like I did a joke tonight, my joke about dreams or whatever. That was a joke I wrote 2 weeks in, and I stopped doing it for a while because it wasn't done, and then I did it one time at till 2 or something like that, and I got a lot more out of it. So it had a punchline finally, and now I feel like it's one of my strongest jokes.
I guess there's jokes that I did like an open mic once that maybe hit at that open mic that I just kind of forgot about or have to go back and listen to and see if they did well. I've definitely had jokes that used to do well that don't do well now. I had a joke about like Gotham City that kind of hasn't hit in a while, so I think I've stopped doing that. I might want to try it again.
Why do you think that happens?
Maybe you're better. I'm hoping that's the case. Like I'm hoping that you're just clearly a lot better than that joke. I mean, that's wishful thinking. Maybe that joke wasn't that great in the first place, and you just got lucky with the audiences. And with my Gotham joke, I talked about the movies, so there might have been like a time component. There is a time component in that, and so it might just be like that's finally fading out of the consciousness of the people.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way I'd put it.
And there were a few that I just got tired of, that like they did okay, but I was not personally too attached to them. I mean, I'll still, use them if I am on a show and I feel like I'm running out of material. I just did Winston's a little while ago and I had to do 15 minutes, so I had to do some material that was not necessarily my favorite, but I needed it to fill time.
I'll have like a rotation of jokes like I'm working on, and then I'll try to take those to open mics, and then if I find that I'm like starved for time, like I didn't plan on doing like the full 5 minutes, then I'll do like a joke that I know kind of works, but with like a little tweak to it. So I try to make sure there's a bunch of new jokes in the rotation, especially because that's all I want to do at open mics is just try out new material, see what works, see what doesn't.
There's one that was always very funny to me, but I could never get it across to people, and I would do it 2 or 3 times a month. It's about I can't even remember it right now, but it's about Wonder Woman owning an invisible plane and like how that's considered a superpower, but you can't own things as a superpower. That doesn't count. which is very funny to me, but as evidenced by your lack of reaction, a lot of people don't really identify with it that much. It's just kind of a weird thought.
Yeah. So you try to bust that out every once in a while to see if you can make it funny?
Every once in a while, if I'm doing well at an open mic or something like that, I probably wouldn't do that at a book show. But if it's going well and I feel like the room is receptive, I will try it and see if I can get something out of it. But I still no.
I'll stick with a joke probably longer than I should, just because I want it to work so bad. Because in my head it's hilarious, but on stage it might not be. But if it consistently isn't getting laughs or the audience, like I just did a joke today and one of the audience members the audience was confused about where I was going, like it just didn't flow logically, I guess. And I guess now I'm like, I gotta take that out,
Since I get jokes that I like so rarely, if I find something I really like, I'll do it for quite a while, several months. There's not a lot, other than the stuff that I started with, that I was talking about, that like I wrote and got a lot of laughs and I stopped doing it. It doesn't happen that often. It'll mostly just be stuff that I'll tuck away, and if I feel like taking it out, using it at some point, I will.
What's your oldest joke?
Oldest joke? The joke that I told at my first open mic was, it's not a bad premise or anything. It was about my friend who was a drug dealer, and he was like talking down to me and making me feel bad for smoking cigarettes. So like the idea of a drug addict that is condescending was very funny to me. And it still is kind of funny, but it was incomplete when I did it, and I still have not yet figured out how to make it anything more. But that's the first joke I ever told on stage.
Yeah.
Sometimes you become better than jokes, I feel. Like some jokes that you just outgrow because, if you hit up, especially at my level, if you just hit up open mics all the time, you're gonna get better, right? And so I'm hoping that I'm really hoping that I'm growing as I'm moving along, and that means I got to throw away some jokes.
Yeah, sure.
Throwing away material or being embarrassed by older material is sort of a sign of maturity. I heard a more experienced comic talk about this. Like, he said that he felt bad or was embarrassed by jokes that he had that were, a year old or whatever. And I think that's probably a good thing, because it just shows that you've grown enough as a writer. Like, even jokes that I did at my first open mic, like I was saying, I would be embarrassed to do them now. But that's because I'm hopefully a better writer and a better comic now than I was when I first started. So it feels shitty, but it's, the sign of growth, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, well, I think that's it. Thanks.